In our data collection module now, what I do is before I zero in on a particular property, I want to understand what other properties are selling in that area and for what price and when were they sold and all different kinds of data that you can imagine. Now, there are various sources that you can get the data of. You could go to this site that I showed you earlier, and you can put in the suburb that gives you the site. You could go to realestate.com.au. You could go to domain.com.au, and they've got all got sites that you can look at. I think even this website called Suburb Price, I think, and you can have a look at what it's got some data on it. But these are the only free resources where you can get this kind of data. But the only problem is that you've got to spend a lot of time putting copying all this data and putting it into an Excel sheet that can actually be analyzed further to derive inferences from that data. And for that, I actually use a paid service. I don't get paid to say which one I use, so I use one of them. And either RP Data or Real Estate Investor, any of them, if you've got a subscription to any of these sites, you can have access to all of this data. I will not this because this is not the scope of this course. I'm not going to go how to get data of these websites. If you've got access to them, you'll get data. But I'll go through how I analyze that data. So you can, if you don't have it, if you're on a shoestring budget, you'll have to spend some time behind the computer, and you will have to take out all of this data, put them in columns that can actually be analyzed. And this is quite extensive data. You can actually go back. Look at this. It goes back to April 2014. You could go back even further. Um, April 2000. Okay, let's see page 10. What have we got? So it goes up to February 2000. What's happening here? I think the different suburb just started. Hmm, interesting. Let's see where are we at. So there's a whole lot of data that you can get. It's gone into Pakenham, but you'll have to see. So that's the limitation of getting free data. But there's a lot of data that you can get from here, from these two websites, whatever they are allowed to report. But they don't go back that long, so you won't be able to get access to all data for last 6 months, and for that you need a paid subscription. Now I've already got a paid subscription, and I've got some data that I've analyzed. So I'll just minimize this, and let's look at this. Now what I do is I put the address here, I put the price. From my subscribed service, I actually get first advertised price. I don't get vendor discounting. I calculate that, and I'll show you how to calculate that. But let's just look at this is the raw data that I get. I've just rearranged a few columns, so I've got them where I want them, and I've got address, I've got price. I'll just turn the filters off. Agent, date, type, bed, bath, parking, land size. First advertise it. I love this date, especially when I'm looking at sold properties. And you've got first advertised price, and you've got some features: alarm, ensuite, family room, heating, rumpus room, and this is just really nothing. You can delete that. I will give you access to these files that I'm going through, so you can go through and have a look at this data and analyze it if you wanted to, and play around with it, and yeah, so that you have all the columns in place as well. So the first thing that I actually do is I just quickly add the auto filter, and which is nothing. You can this the symbol here, and you can figure out just a normal filter in Excel. And all I do is I look at, okay, arrange all my data by type. So I've got commercial, house, um, and I'll have townhouses and other and everything. And the thing is, I'm not quite interested in all this other and all this extra material. And rural areas that I get, so I'm just going to delete that. So I've got units, townhouses, land I'm interested in. I'm also not interested in industrial, so I just delete that. It's just extra data. And we go through, and then we've got commercial here, so I'm going to delete commercial as well because I'm just looking at the residential market. So I've got some data. Another thing I can do is I quickly organize it by price. That gives me the market floor and market ceiling. So that's the lowest, 225, and if you look at the market ceiling in the last 6 months, it has been close to 7.8, which has got to be something else. Ooh, look at this. Um, wow, must be a mansion there. Look at the size of the land. Looks like, what is this? 800,000 square meters. Wow. So it's quite a huge block of land. Um, Probably an acreage more than almost 2 acres. 4,000. No, it's more acres. Anyway, I don't have the calculator here to calculate all of this, but it gives me an idea of what the suburb is, what the floor and the market ceiling was. The next thing I do is I actually create a pivot table. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to create a pivot table. You can Google it and find out. But what pivot table actually does is it helps me organize this data. So by house, and I've got 2 bedroom house, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, 5 bedroom, 6 bedroom, and 11 bedroom. And I've got, I'll just quickly refresh this data, refresh. So all that is gone. So I've got land, you've got townhouses, and I've got units. So I can look at this data and say, okay, 3 bedroom houses in Berwick, and I put the land size right next to them, so I get an idea of how big are they or what's happening here. So say for example here it says 822. I think it has to be already subdivided. It's got to be something on it. So there's someone's actually bought a unit at this. So otherwise, the price and the size of the land doesn't actually make sense. But that's how you get data, and it gives me a very good idea of what 3 bedroom houses sell for in this area. And similarly, I can look at what 2 bedroom houses sell in this area, what 4 bedroom houses sell, and so on for land. And if I'm planning to develop townhouses there, this will give me an idea of if I develop a townhouse, how much can I sell it for in the market? Okay, so I can sell it for 430. So let's say I'm looking at this and I want to. What I've done is I've actually pulled my builder out. It's a pivot table builder, and what I want to see is that okay, I'm going to develop townhouses here. What are the townhouses selling for in that area? So say for example, I'm thinking of developing 3 bedroom townhouses. So that gives me an idea of okay, they are selling for 560, 615, 370, 426. They're all over the place. But what I want to do is I want to add the date on them. So just to find out which ones are the recent ones and which ones are maybe 3 months old or 4 months old. So I just add the date column here, and it shows me okay 365 January, 29th of January this year, which is not bad, which is fairly recent. So I would want to keep an eye on what's happening. So if I develop something, this is all to make sure that I don't actually end up paying too much for land, and that's what I do. I analyze all this data to get a very good sense of the market. So that's what you can do. You can turn it on, turn it off. You can play it around in your own time, have a look at it. But this gives me a very good idea of what I'm going to develop in this area and how much can I actually get for it. The agents will tell you, yeah, you'll get it, and they're usually on the higher side because they want to sell it, and I don't blame them. But you've got to see what historically has been sold and which are the recent sales, because I don't care what the agent says, you're gonna get your loan as per the bank's valuation, and the bank's valuation will always be based on this data. So this is Barrick sold properties. I've got another analysis that I do, and I build on this data, and I love that analysis. You have to do that. So everything that we discussed earlier, vendor discounting, days on the market, this gives me a very good idea of what the market is. So these columns don't actually come with the with the data that I calculate. So, but I can actually calculate vendor discounting from the price that it was sold for to the first advertised price. So, if you look at this address here, it was first advertised for 428,840, and it actually was sold for 228,47. Wow, why? Probably because it was land. No one wanted to buy it. Maybe it had a house on it. What it was, I have no idea. I'll have to look into it, but because I'm not interested in land at the moment, I won't waste my time on this. But let's say I wanted to look at other stuff like houses and stuff. If you look at this property here, was first advertised for 540, sold for 305, but and 44% discount. But look at this, 112 days on the market, and I've just calculated that, and it's got all the formulas here. If you wanted to dissect this Excel sheet, you can. And all I've done is I've just subtracted these days. First advertised date, which is when it actually went on the market, and the date that it was actually sold. So 112 days. Look at this, 307 days. Went on the market for 920,000, sold for 768, $152,000 discount. Now this could be various reasons for this price drop. Maybe it was high to begin with. So you have to understand what were the reasons, and you can maybe look up this property on Google Maps, have a look at it, and analyze your data that way. So you can look at this. Another really good thing that's available through this is agents. Look at this. These are all the agents here. Now I'm just going to show you something through this. I'm just going to show you another analysis that I do on pivot table. So all I do is go to data, go to pivot table, and when I go to the pivot table, I don't want any of this, nothing. What I want is I want the agents, and I want them here, and that's all my agents, and all I want is my address. So I've got address and I've got agents. So what it shows me is that Barry Plan in the last 6 months, Barry Plan, because this is last 6 months data, Barry Plan sold 37 properties. Then you've got Chris Peak Real Estate sold 35 properties, and it'll tell you who are the market leaders in that area. So make sure that if you have to sell your townhouses that you develop, you hire one of the really good ones, and the ones that haven't done really well, these are the ones that you actually buy the property of because they are desperate to sell, and they are more likely to be in your favor. So that's one. If I also wanted to bifurcate that even further, find out what the address is, what type of property was it. So I'll just get type here, move it here, and it'll tell me that Barry Plan Barrick sold 35 houses, one townhouse, and one unit. Barry Plan, you got Barry Plan Nari Warren sold 6 and one unit. You've got Chris Peak, they sold 27 houses, 4 rural, some sort of listing townhouses, they sold 4 of them. So if I'm selling townhouses, I would want to find somebody who sold a lot of townhouses. Look at this guy. He's sold 60 properties. Grant Estate Agents, probably the leader in the market, have sold 60 total properties. They've sold 6 townhouses and 50 houses. So these are some data that you can actually just put agent here. These are some inferences that you can drive from this data, and when you come back you can actually spend more time on it, and when you get these files, play around with them, have a look, and you will, I'm telling you, and then you will get very good insights from this. So I'm just gonna save this, close that. This is the Barrick Properties for Sale data. So we've got the sales data here, and we can look at various things in the sales data. These are the properties that are on sale at the moment. And what I've done is I've just added vendor discounting to the same page. And it just shows me if I just wanted to organize everything by vendor discounting, I'll just click that and it'll show me, okay. First advertised price was 542. It is now on sale for 371. There's a 31% discount. And what this doesn't tell me is the days on the market, especially for the ones that are actually on sale. I do get a column which says first listed price, but it's exactly the same as the first advertised as this date. So I get no data of it. So you can find out, okay, vendor discount is 16%. So if you're looking for something, and these are all houses, right? These are all houses. So say for example, this house here, it could be a bargain, but it could also mean that there's some reason the property isn't selling. And why have they actually reduced their price? So that's how you can find out the properties that were first listed for a higher price and are now available for a lower price, and you can pick up what the reason is. The sole reason that it was listed for a higher price and later on the price was pulled back and a discount was offered gives you a very good negotiation leverage when you're negotiating with your agent or the vendor directly. It puts you in a very good position to negotiate with them, and you can, especially in a market where the vendor discounting is quite high over here. And it would worry me to be in this area to find out, or I would want to find out more before I actually make any decision. Why is vendor discounting so high in this area? I would want to map all these properties on Google Maps and see why are these um, discounting and where are they located. Is there a particular area which has more particular streets that tell you that these properties are for sale? So that's the next step, and I'll show you how we do that. The other thing that I do is I again do the same thing. I organize everything, all these for sale as well, in terms of the house, the type of dwelling, and I further break it down to the number of bedrooms and bathrooms and stuff. So you can have a look at what these are for and look at these details. Say for example, I want to develop townhouses. I want to see what other three-bedroom townhouses are for sale in the market and for what price. So I can look at these prices here, and there's a whole lot of development going on this road here, uh, Buchanan Road in Berwick. So 570,000. So I would say it repeats. There's a lot of properties there for sale, probably from the same address, but this is 2034, which is a different address, but also on Buchanan Street. Now I would want to know what's happening there, what kind of developments going there. So if I'm planning to develop somewhere close to it, I would want to be careful to figure out what the actual demand is in that area, and if those that are already on sale can be. If you look at this, it tells you that it's 12/2226. Looks like apartments to me, and maybe they are close to a good activity center where, or it's a really big block and they've put 12 townhouses on it. Um, but possible. I've just seen one happening in Mitcham, which is not far from where I live. There are 18 townhouses being developed in Mitcham. I think they should be finished with their construction soon. But have a look at this data, and that's how you actually drive all these inferences from this data. If I look at agent, all I've done is the same thing. I've tried to figure out who's the best agent there. So if I wanted to sell townhouses, I would want to find the guy who sold the most townhouses. So if you look at Chris Peak and you compare that with the sold data, how much they sold there and how many properties they've got on list. So they've got these 12 townhouses that they've put on list, put on sale, and at these values. If I wanted to find out what the address was, I could find out the address, and I'll put it here and find out what the address was as well. So that gives me the address too. So see, he's got all the Buchanan Street properties, Buchanan Road properties are with this guy. So obviously he's gone and spoken to a developer. This guy seems to be well connected, so you know who to hire to market your project.